You are watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the September 27th meeting of the Michigan City Animal Control Board. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good afternoon. This is going to be the third quarter meeting for 2023 for the Animal Control Board. Today's time is 12:30 p.m. We'll do a roll call to order. It is currently 12:31 p.m. President, Chairperson, myself, Dave Cooney, Director of Animal Control.
Present.
Jackie Euler, Humane Society, Karen Edwards.
Present.
And Michigan City Animal Control Hospital,
Present.
Dr. Bailey. Absent is Michael Mack, the Michigan City Council member. We do have a quorum. Thanks. One thing we have to finish up from the last meeting, unfortunately we didn't have a quorum, so we need to approve the minutes from the fourth quarter meeting of 2022. It's the board's pleasure if you'd like me to read the minutes, or we could just request an approval to approve the minutes.
I request an approval just to...
Second.
Approval. And then this will also be for the first and second quarter as well, those minutes which have been provided. Get a motion to approve those minutes as well.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Previous business, we would like to again welcome Gabrielle Van Etten as our full-time animal control officer, as well as our first ever that I'm aware of, the part-time animal control officer, which is Michelle Planky. We welcome you again. You're both doing a fantastic job. I want to thank you for being here. Any new business? Jackie, do you have anything? Other than your comments? But.
Other than my comments? No.
I did meet with, there's always discussion about our facility and what needs to be done and what options there are. Over the last few months, I've been speaking with Michiana Humane Society. There was a possibility of potentially purchasing their building after they complete their building. However, in the last meeting we had with the director, they're looking to be several years out from completing that, so we may have to look at other alternatives again. That I thought was going to be a good solution for us. Bigger facility, had everything we needed, but we may have to just kind of hold off on that choice.
Their facility would really be perfect
Right.
for us with all the kennels that they have and the cat space that they have and the office space. That's what the city needs.
Correct.
Is something along those lines.
So we are moving forward. We received a quote to redo all of the interior fencing and kennel areas in the kennels currently, so we're going to go ahead and move forward with that, as well as do some exterior dog runs. So we're going to move forward. We also have quotes out. We're going to need additional quotes because of the cost, but we're going to try and do a full concrete pad for a parvo contamination area there, so we don't have that contamination issue going forward. So we are working on that. Fencing, that's all I have for that.
Will that include some kind of a confinement so when the dogs are watched, if they slip the leash, they can't take off? I mean, that needs to be in the planning of that.
I know at one time that there was talk about putting kennel runs in. Since I've been off, I'm not sure what all has been decided in regards to that.
So Chad met with the rep from Action Fencing, and we have diagrams that we can provide. I can do that. I'll email them to you, just so if we need to change some things or do something different. I'm pretty sure that's set up that way.
Okay.
Do either of you know
about
the new fencing? Anything about that?
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, I'll email those out.
Thank you.
Let's see. We'll move on to the activities.
So for the first quarter, our intake was a total of 43 animals, and that breaks down to them being sent. 10 went to Michiana Humane Society, 6 went to, I'm sorry, dogs. We're talking about dogs at this point. 10 of dogs went to Michiana Humane Society, 6 went to the LaPorte Shelter, 13 were returned to their owner, 8 went to rescues, 1 was found deceased. As far as cats go for the first quarter, 1 went to Michiana Humane Society, 0 went to LaPorte Shelter, 2 went to Freed's, 1 was found deceased, 1 was euthanized due to injuries. And for the second quarter intake, there were a total of 40. And that breaks down into the dogs, 8 going to Michiana, 0 went to LaPorte, 20 were returned to owner. Good job, guys, really. 1 went to rescue, 3 unfortunately were found deceased. Cats, 1 went to Michiana, 0 went to LaPorte Shelter, 4 went to Freed's, 2 were found deceased, and 1 was euthanized due to injuries. We do still have some past court case animals that are in boarding, in foster care, and also in our kennels. So our kennels are full, and then some.
We'll move on to public comments. Oh, go
I
ahead,
would
sir.
like to comment on this. John, on the deceased animals, I think it would be beneficial for you guys to document animals found deceased, appeared healthy the night before, something like that.
Oh, no, these are animals that were
Picked up deceased.
picked up deceased.
All right, I think you should put that in there that way.
Okay,
Because otherwise you're going to think they died in your care.
right, no, those animals did not die in our care, those animals were found, somebody had found the animal and
Because I
called
think,
us.
you need to make it clear that if an animal is injured, you're going to have it euthanized if necessary, that type of thing. So I would clarify that.
Okay,
And then the other thing I was going to say that I think would be beneficial for you guys, because it's a chronic problem, is you guys get these dogs and you have them for, so if you could make a note like, okay, we have 6 dogs, 5 of them we've had for 6 months because of court cases or something like that. And then people could understand why you have no spaces. And then maybe we could try looking at some other solutions for those kind of situations. I know a lot of times it's just drug on, but it would be beneficial to say, okay, well, yeah, we have 6 cages, but 5 of them been full with the same animals for 6 months.
right, and I think currently there are 4 dogs that are from a previous court case that has since been resolved, but the shelters are full,
Right.
so there's nowhere to
Right.
move them.
That might also open up an option for fosters to say,
Right,
you
and,
know, I can help you out with that.
and in my notes that I will cover.
Okay, so just be patient, right? Okay.
All right, any other comments about the animal control activities? Seeing none, we'll move on again to public comment. Do either of you have anything to say, or? No.
No. I'd like to see maybe a better relationship with donations coming in. Because we often run really, really low on food and aren't putting enough donations in.
Okay.
So I don't know if that is us going out to the community and kind of advertising more, but to build more of a relationship to get more donations. Definitely food, but I'd love to get like sensory things for the dogs too, like the ones that have been there for 6-7 months to
Yeah,
stimulate them,
A lot of
give
them
them
are-
chew, yeah.
are very much deteriorating behavior-wise. They're like losing their minds, which I don't blame them.
Like I walk 4 times a day, each dog, but there's only so much you can do living in a kind of
Like mental stimulation, they're just not.
I do know that on our Facebook page that we do have an Amazon link. Maybe share that more often. and I know that several people follow our page, so, and then if I see that you guys have posted, or even if I share it, I'll make sure it gets shared to like all the Michigan City sites and stuff. So, yeah.
And
Yeah, they-
also, Humane Society is more than willing to donate, we get an excess amount of bones or stuffed
Yeah.
animals or something like that. Before we leave, let's do a list, and I can see what happens.
Yeah, that'd be,
Yeah, 'cause we had a big supply and then it just would go down to like, we literally had nothing.
And usually at our board meetings, we'll mention, we are always looking for, extras. I mean, the city does supply the basic food.
right, yeah.
That's not what we're saying, that the city doesn't supply that. But some of these dogs, like you said, they've been here for
Months.
months.
Right, I need the stimulation.
They need the stimulation. They need something extra, an extra toy, an extra kind of chewed bone, something, just never rawhide. Please do not send us rawhide. It will be thrown away. But I mean, other than that, I mean, toys that they can play with.
Antlers too.
Antlers,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, I know that several of those dogs in there love antlers.
Yeah.
And I'll have to go through my stock at home for my own dogs, and they don't need that many.
No other public comments, we'll move on to board comments. Or Julia?
I'd like to start out by saying thank you to the ACOs. You guys have done a wonderful job. I appreciate everything that you've done. You have stepped up, taken care of animal control while I've been out injured, and it really is very much appreciated. I'm going to be out of the office for a little while still, but I'm hoping in the next month or so to be back into the swing of things. So again, I thank you. Cold weather is coming. I know none of us want to hear that. Please make sure that any animals that are housed outside have proper shelters in place. Our city ordinance concerning this is section 14-134. It's just general animal care requirements. Full list can be found if you go onto emichigancity.com and click on government and then code of ordinances. If you need straw for bedding, please don't use blankets, heaters, that sort of thing. You want to use straw. And I know that Brant's usually carries it, as well as R&P Home and Harvest, if that's what they're still called. Tractor Supply and Rural King and LaPorte usually have it as well. Just make sure you call those places first to make sure that they have it. Sometimes we carry it in our shed as well if you are in desperate need and you just can't afford it and you have a dog outside. Please do not let your animals freeze. As always, we need volunteers. If you are interested, you can email mcac@emichigancity.com. You can volunteer as little or as much as you like. Our kennels stay full, and any help is always greatly appreciated. Volunteers walk dogs, clean kennels, wash dishes, fold laundry. They work with us while we are there, so you're never going to be in the kennel by yourself. The LaPorte Shelter, Michiana Humane Society, and Freed's Cat Shelter are full. They are beyond full. Rescues are full. At a previous board meeting, we had talked about putting a breeding ordinance together, and unfortunately, due to my injury, we've not been able to have a meeting about this, but I hope that we can get this meeting together at some point soonish. There are just too many animals and not enough people to properly adopt. There's a saying in the animal world, there is no such thing as an accidental litter. If the animals aren't fixed, it isn't an accident, they're gonna get pregnant. Bestfriends.org has some great reasons why you should spay or neuter. There's no risk of uterine infection, ovarian cancer. It greatly reduces the breast cancer on female dogs. Male dogs have a reduced risk of testicular cancer. They're not as likely to spray or mark. Also from that same website, in 2022, more than 1,000 dogs and cats were killed every day in shelters simply because there wasn't enough space for them. Reducing the number of pets entering shelters has a direct impact on number of pets who die there. Now here in LaPorte County, I want to make sure everybody understands, here in LaPorte County, we do not euthanize for space. However, when an animal stays too long, like we were just talking about some of our long-term dogs from court cases, they get a little kennel crazy, which can lead to behavior problems and aggressions, and that in turn leads to an unadoptable animal. We have to reduce the number of animals being born to reduce the number of animals in our shelters. And lastly, Michigan City Animal Control does not do owner surrenders. Please do not put them in kennels outside of our. We have outside kennels that are used for our dogs that are inside our kennels to be able to have outside time. As I said earlier, every rescue, every shelter is full. There are waiting lists. Please plan accordingly if you can no longer care for your pet. If you need food or medical help, please reach out to one of us. And we have lists that we can help you find what you need. If you need some help with medicine, you need to get your dog or cat to a vet, there are places that we can refer you to that can help with the cost of that. If you need food, I know the LaPorte shelter, and I believe Michiana also has some food set aside for animals that need to be fed that their owners can no longer care for them. So yeah, that's all I have.
We haven't talked about it. I mean, you want to clarify for the public what your position is on, and also the police position on who is to handle wildlife and who isn't.
It is my understanding that Michigan City Animal Control is not handling wildlife at this time due to the fact that we do not have the proper training.
What do the police do?
So typically, there's a company that will come out and handle wildlife, and that's who we direct our officers to contact them.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't feel comfortable with our animal control officers dealing with some of those situations, and if there are companies that could do it on their own, that's what I prefer. I know our officers have had to put down a couple raccoons here lately. So if we want to go that direction, I think it's just a discussion, and if it's something that animal control is comfortable with training to do, I think we could talk about it. But currently, I don't think that's something we need to mess with.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting they do it. I think it's better if they don't. But I think that just clarifying to the public that you don't do that is important. And the raccoons right now, a lot of them, when they're wandering around during the daytime, they're sick. They have distemper. So I had a lady come up and tell me the other day that one came up and was scratching on her legs, wanted to be petted, and I'm like, okay, that's not a good situation. So anyway,
I'm hoping she went and got medical care.
So anyway, be cautious. Do not approach those animals. They're not tame. They're sick.
There are several licensed rehabbers in the area that our AC officers are aware of that they can reach out to. If they are truly sick, they need to be dispatched, euthanized, or whatever. But if you find a baby somewhere, reach out to a local company, reach out to a local rehabber. If you don't know who that is, you can always call our office. We can get you in touch with those people. Don't pick up wildlife. Please just don't pick up wildlife. They're not cute and cuddly. I mean, they are, but...
We could do a post as well, like on our social media, just explaining that, and then also who to call, if they have a problem. Like we've been called for bats and again raccoons and things like that. So
Right.
direct them in the right way.
And while I don't think that I would mind that our AC officers were able to get the training to do that, they don't have the time.
Right.
They're dealing with dogs and cats, and they just don't have the time, unfortunately.
Okay. Karen?
I have a lot. Again, I'd like to welcome you ladies to the committee, and it's going to be a joy to work with you guys. And with what Jackie had said, as far as if people need food or anything, we do have something called Feeding Hope, which is through the Humane Society, and people give donations for. Yes, it's a hard time for everybody. So we have donations for food as well. And I'd also like to very importantly stress, I know that there's people that bring us animals that they found as a stray. They don't want to call AC because they're afraid they're going to euthanize them. That is not true. Humane Society is initially set up to take owned animals. So if you do have an animal that you own, I mean, yes, we are full right now, but when we get one adopted out, we can get one in. So strays, you know, when animal control brings their strays when the time is up for the holding time, they do bring them to the Humane Society. So there's no risk, like, you know, she said, unless they're sick or injured. But we will take them with moral support and we will find them a home. So please, you know, if you do find a stray, please call animal control and they'll help you out.
We don't euthanize when we
Right.
find strays. We
Right.
don't euthanize for space.
Right.
And,
Get that
and
going
we
on, though.
personally don't euthanize. Our animal control officers do not ever euthanize. We take an injured or whatever animal to Dr. Bailey's office, and then it's a joint conversation with his office and our office,
Right.
whether or not the animal needs medical help or needs to be euthanized. But no animal is killed by animal control officers in our building. We don't do that.
And thank you for saying that, because again, we still get the call, you know, nobody wants to call animal control because, you know, you, for some reason you have a bad vibe, and there shouldn't be a bad vibe because animal control loves animals just as much as anybody else out there does. So, okay. I think that's all.
Dr. Bailey?
You know, we're in a unique area where we have a great Humane Society facility and great officers and so forth, so I appreciate that. All you need to do is look at other communities and you see what their buildings look like. So, you know, it is an ongoing issue, and so everybody has to realize that it's not uncommon to have a 200 cat waiting list in the summer. So it's an endless thing that needs to be constantly, everybody needs to be responsible for their own animals and make sure that we don't have more litters than there are homes for.
I would also like to say, as long as I've been in this field with animals, 25 years, this has been the absolute worst year of being full. They're not getting adopted, they're coming in, but they're not, just like with you guys, it's like, you know, I mean, I get calls every day from animal control, can you take an animal? And I wish I could, but I can't, so it's bad.
And I think even if you had a bigger facility, we would still have a problem.
Absolutely.
Even if we had a bigger facility, it's still going to be the same
Yes.
problem. We have to stop the breeding.
Yes,
The breeding has got to stop.
yes, it does.
There's
To put
just,
things in perspective a little bit, 11 million extra animals were adopted during COVID. 11 million in our country. And a lot of those people now they're going back to work and they
Yes.
don't have a place for those animals or they
Yes.
can't take care of them. So that's everybody's struggle right now.
We had that discussion too, of being COVID animals, because they have to get rid of them now.
Some of them are not socialized, so they have lots of behavior issues. So it's a very unique situation coming
Yes.
out of COVID at this point in time. Everybody has to deal with it a little bit.
Very good. I do have a few comments. I want to thank again the animal control officers, the new officers, as well as Chad with your injury. Him and I were working very hard to keep everything running. Chad basically was doing everything by himself. We also had Sergeant Wadowski and Officer Fletcher would come in and volunteer a lot of their time, including the volunteers did fantastic for us. Michelle was a volunteer before she took the part-time and helped out a lot. So we went through a real tough batch there for a while, and thankfully now I think we're on the back end of that struggle. But everyone did well, in my opinion. There's an event tomorrow night at Michiana Humane Society called Remember Me Thursday. They're going to be having like a candlelight vigil, basically 6 p.m. if anyone would like to participate. Michelle will be there to be out there, so it's a good event. Karen, I don't know if you want to speak more about that or.
Yes, this is our 10th anniversary. It's throughout the whole country. Tomorrow night is a night to honor pets that are no longer with us, whether it be an own animal or an animal that was not able to make it out of the shelter. So it is a very nice event, so the more that come out there, I mean, I think you're really, it's very peaceful and comforting. So if you get a chance, please come up to Humane Society tomorrow night at 6 p.m.
I would like to ask a question for the board. We do have animals in the kennel who are now basically in the custody of the city, right?
Correct.
The court, is over with. We are now in possession of these animals. I know some can be adopted, but from my understanding, some cannot. So what are we going to do with?
I know
Those
that
animals.
one of the volunteers has been working, trying to find rescue to take the 2 dogs that are iffy. They're not bad dogs, they're just not socialized properly, so they need to go to specific homes. I had last year even started working the process to try to find rescues. Like I said, rescues are full. So we have to decide if we don't get an answer within the next few weeks, what we are going to do with those 2 dogs. And as the AC officers have said, they are starting to deteriorate. It's been almost a year. I think it was in November when we took those dogs. So they have lived a year. I know that 2 of the dogs have gone to shelters in the area. And I know that one of the dogs is getting ready to go to a shelter in the area. So that would leave us with just the 2 dogs that are iffy and 1 more that I believe could go to a shelter. I don't foresee a problem with that dog at all. I haven't been there in a few months, but I've not heard anything that dog is deteriorating. It's just the 2 that we have an issue with. So, I mean, we do need to decide what to do with those 2 dogs.
I guess how long is it advantageous or for the dogs, again, mental health or whatever decision we're going to make to continue that process? Because again, we are not a long-term facility.
Right.
And we shouldn't be. And I guess at what point do we need to make that decision?
I'd like to give 1 more week before we say, that's it. For their own sanity, we need to do what we need to do.
Yeah.
Which would be to euthanize, unfortunately. But I would like to give it 1 more week to see if these rescues, because there has been some interest, but they're full.
Yeah.
So,
In the future, is there something that we can do, whether it's with the court system or, the prosecutor's office trying to determine?
I would like to see, it in cases like this particular one that we're talking about, I would like to see the owners immediately sign off on these dogs. And then they can move forward with the court system. Whether or not we can make that happen, I don't know. But that's, and there's another dog and a cat that are in the court system right now that are, one's being boarded, well, the dog and cat are both being boarded somewhere else. And then we've got another 7 from a court case that are with fosters.
Right.
So those big cases like that, they need to sign off. We're not just talking 1 dog. We're talking multiple dogs. And if they don't want to sign off, I know that there was supposed to be a bond put in place on these animals, but these particular cases that we're talking about happened before that bond happened.
Right.
So, I mean, since we've had the bond put in place with the new cases, it's not been as bad. But here we are still stuck with these
Right.
other animals that we're trying to figure out what to do with. Because I honestly believe the 2 dogs that we're discussing that may have to be euthanized, I think had they had the option to go immediately to somewhere else, the one I can guarantee would have been fine. The other one would have just taken a little time and he would be fine. But now here we are a year out and now we have an unadoptable dog.
We have a meeting with the prosecuting attorney next Tuesday, so I'll ask him some more questions about these animal cases on what's the best process for us to, again, have the owner relinquish custody. The issue comes in is when they don't want to. So
Right.
we'll see about that. So.
Yeah, maybe if we could ask if the prosecutor could ask the judge, hey, we've had these problems before. These cases unfortunately do carry on with continuances for a year. What are we supposed to do with these animals in the meantime?
Yeah. Any comments on that?
The only thing I would say is that, you know, there are decisions and situations where it's a tough decision on what we do with the animal. And unfortunately, in our office, it's monthly that we see some child bitten in the face or injured or crippled even. So I think the animals that are, if it's questionable whether they're manageable, I think we need to realize that we need to be responsible and not put them in the hands of somebody who's going to put them at risk. And so that would be my one thing that we do need to keep in mind.
Right, and the rescues that are looking at these 2 dogs are rescues that deal with these kind of dogs. They're not just, it's not, and I love Guardians, but it's not just like Guardians of the Green Mile is going to take this dog on. No, these are specific rescues designed just for, I don't want to deem them aggressive because they're not aggressive, but hard to place dogs.
Since COVID has happened, we have probably an average of 1, some weeks 2 animals that we have to sedate because we cannot even touch them. And it's become a real increasing situation. And so part of that is the poor socialization they got, part of it is animals that were adopted out and to the wrong people, different situations. So that's my only comment is that, you know, I've seen 1-year-olds with their whole skull taken off, and it's just unacceptable.
Yeah.
That those dogs were replaced.
Right, I agree completely. It's not just a safety issue for that particular family either. If that dog were to get out, it then becomes a public, like, safety issue.
One last comment, the personnel department has put out for a application process for an additional part-time animal control officer, so we're hoping to get that filled as well, so hopefully we have another person here shortly. And that is all I have for today. Any other comments? Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
The next board meeting will be tentatively around December 27th or possibly the 20th. We'll see with the holiday, but it'll be the end of December 2023. Thank you.
Thank you.